The following is a Papi Chulo Radio original program. The views and opinions expressed in the commentaries and/or interviews in the following program are solely those of the individuals and are not views of Papi Chulo Radio, its parent, affiliate, or subsidiary companies.
Welcome to the Central City Citizen, a PapiChuloRadio.com original series. Papi Chulo Radio, pop culture on demand. Today is Thursday, March 30th, 2023, and I'm your host, Professor X. During this podcast, we'll be having an in-depth discussion on the CW's The Flash. Please welcome my co-host, Jeffrey.
Hey, Central City, National City, and the Dream World.
Let's jump into our discussion of Season 9, Episode 7, which was titled Wildest Dreams and aired on March 29th, 2023. Here's the official synopsis of the episode. Iris is visited by Nia Nal as she needs Iris's help. When Iris and Nia fall into a fever dream and explore different possibilities for their lives, Barry, Chester, Allegra, and Cecile desperately try to help them. Meanwhile, Mark entertains Keon, but they have different ideas of what is fun, leaving Keon to feel that Mark is trying to make her something that she is not. Okay, so let's start out. The episode opens with Dreamer walking through what appears to be a warehouse when she is suddenly hit with images of doom. Crows, graves, Black Widow spiders. Full disclosure, when I was first writing this, I accidentally wrote cows, graves, Black Widow spiders. I thought, I don't think the cows are that bad. But anyway.
They can't be scary.
Well, I mean, have you ever been charged by a bunch of cows?
That would be scary.
Yeah, you're an urban person, Jeff. I grew up around cows. Let me tell you, they're scary. Soon a group of people appear behind her with a hooded figure. Dreamer prepares to battle the figure, but they are able to remove her power. Iris inexplicably appears and tells Dreamer that it's about control, and then she collapses. Nia wakes up in National City's jitters and realizes she needs to get to Central City. Jeff, how did you like the opening? Gave it that bit of a dream feel, the fast cutting, the strange images. How did you like how it worked?
The fast cutting was very strange. I don't know if it was necessary. It was giving more of like a horror vibe, and that wasn't really the vibe that I got at all from this episode. So the fast cutting was just a hair bizarre, and it felt unnecessary for me. As I was watching this episode, as a fan of Supergirl, check out the National City Tribune. Yes, we talked extensively about Supergirl here on Papi Chulo Radio. As a fan, I was like, okay, Nia Nal, I like it. Clearly we're in a dream. I like that too. Very strange people in the distance. I didn't understand that. Hooded, glowy-eyed person makes sense. We're in the dream world. Iris being there, okay, the tie-in to The Flash, because this is not Supergirl, this is The Flash. Iris dying, OMG. That probably is what scared Dimitri away from this episode this week. He saw Iris die and he was like, oh no. And then she wakes up and she's in National City jitters, which was I guess, okay, we can reuse a set so we don't have to build the Catco set and that kind of stuff. As I was watching it though, and I was enjoying it because I enjoy Dreamer. She was a fantastic character on Supergirl. I was like, let's pretend I'm a person that has never watched Supergirl in my life. I would be very confused because I don't believe Dreamer has ever even appeared in like a crossover on The Flash, period. So as imagining in my brain being a non-Supergirl watcher, I would be very confused. I would just be very confused by it all. But it was fascinating to watch as a fan of Supergirl.
You know what? You raised a point that I was going to bring up later, but let's address it right now. We got a lot of Dreamer in this episode, and I agree with you. I love Nicole Maines. I think she's great. In fact, I want to venture a potentially controversial point. I think she has the best costume in the Arrowverse.
Oh, look at you. Bold statement.
Yeah, exactly. The colors, the way it's cut, that the belt and everything like that. I think she has like a fantastic costume. It was great to see it back. But I agree with you. It's really weird for someone who is watching The Flash in its final season to have an entire episode that is basically not about the Flash characters. Most of this episode is about Nia, not about, and again, yes, Iris was there. Iris was, but it really felt, a bit, like they were shoehorning it in. So, the question is, and again, I understand some people might have complained about devoting, so much of one episode of a limited number of remaining episodes. We only have, 5 episodes left of this show after 9 seasons, devoting, most of an entire episode to a character from another show. So, what are your thoughts on devoting so much of this to someone who is not really part of Team Flash, even less than Mark is?
Oh, well, yeah, poor Mark. The way that I could sort of kind of explain it away in the back of my mind is that this was an Iris West Allen episode. This was also, yes, a Nia Nal episode. It was very Nia Nal centric. I agree with you, Professor, which threw me off because I was like, Supergirl had its ending. It wasn't like Batwoman or Legends of Tomorrow that both found out they were canceled after their season finale aired. And so that means Supergirl had an immense amount of preparation time to properly wrap up its characters' arcs. And I felt like, and I think you would even agree, Professor, that they did an actual good job for the most part of doing that. Batwoman, the way that they ended their series' run, it ended, yes, with a tiny cliffhanger at the end, a sort of tease of what's to come, but for the most part, it really did wrap up the central, the larger overall arcs of the series when it ended that season. Would we have liked to have seen more? Yes, of course. But anyway, I don't want to digress into that. Legends, interestingly enough, out of all of them, is the show that actually ended with like a major cliffhanger, and one that, if we were going to catch up with any characters on The Flash, because this is the final Arrowverse series, and so this is the end of the Arrowverse once The Flash closes its doors in a handful of episodes, like, I thought they would have used them. So it's kind of strange that we're getting sort of like like a post-mortem almost with Nia Nal after Supergirl ended. Yeah, it's a strange choice. I'm not gonna bitch about it because, as we both have been saying, Nia Nal, Dreamer, Nicole Maines, fantastic. Just a wonderful character on Supergirl. So it is nice to catch up with her, but seeing how much this episode was focused on her, and the fact that we've never seen her on The Flash, the fact that, we basically got just a tiny bit of exposition a couple episodes ago that basically was like, hey, you're invited, you being Iris West Allen, you're invited to our brunch, Nia's gonna be there. Like, it's just, I don't know, it's strange. It's a strange choice. I don't want to complain about it once again because Nia's fantastic, but it is such a strange choice for like the Flash viewers. I don't know if it really fully made sense. I did like how they used her in the story because we got to get into like the deep dreams and desires and fears of Iris West Allen, one of our leads, but it's strange.
Yeah, I agree. Much that, and I love Nicole. I love her character, and as I've said, love that costume. I think it's spectacular, probably the best in the
Yes,
Arrowverse.
well, also shout out for them to bring back the costume.
Yeah, but to what extent was this necessary? Supergirl got to wrap everything up in a nice bow. Did we need to have Nia? And honestly, for all the character development that we got for any of the Flash characters, did we need Nia to do this? It felt like it was, wrapping up Nia's story or advancing Nia's story. But Nia, as you said, was never part of, the Flash. Did she ever actually cross over to the Flashverse? The only thing that they managed to do was when she was talking about her powers, reiterate the fact that she was somehow able to stop a fucking tidal wave. And God damn it, why did you have to put that in there? You goddamn, writers to put that in there just to piss me off. Anyway, but no, I mean, yeah, I loved seeing her again. She is cute as a bug's ear. I find her absolutely adorable. And as I said, has the best costume. But was she necessary to this episode? And yes, we did get a bit of an advance in Iris's character, which we'll talk about as we go through the episode. Did we need Dreamer to do this? I don't think so. But I mean, it was great to see her again. And Nicole was great, but yeah, I just do kind of if anyone was arguing, why are we spending so much time on a character who has never been part of this show? I kind of understand that argument. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, this could have been the episode in which we wrapped up Legends.
And how much better would that have been? And we kind of got the wrap up of kind of wrap up of Batwoman, and wouldn't it have been great to just have some sort of resolution for Legends? But instead, no, we get resolution of a character who didn't need resolution, and we'll talk more about that as we go through it. Anyway, at CCCM, Iris is working late when Allegra shows her the headline she's come up with for Iris's article on the Red Death, and it's the exact headline of Iris's first Pulitzer-winning article that Barry remembered from the future. Suddenly, Iris seems to be having doubts. Meanwhile, at Star Labs, Keon seems to have unlocked her ice powers and spilled something on Mark, and in the process, prompting him to take off his shirt, which leads to kissing, but it's all a dream. Mark's fallen asleep on monitor duty. Chester and Keon show up to relieve him, but Mark invites Keon out for the day instead. Jeff, let's just get rid of this whole Mark-Keon subplot now. Any thoughts on how it all played out?
Here is my take on it. I feel like we got much of the same that we've been getting. I mean, Mark pretty much from the beginning has been trying to turn Keon, or has been trying to get a glimmer of Frost in Keon, and Keon has been saying the same thing from the start, is I am my own person, I am not Frost, hello. And what I found interesting, if I'm going to grab anything that was interesting about this storyline, is the fact that the cast in general mourned Frost. Like, we had that entire episode in which, like, the denizens of Central City were, like, giving their testimonies about, like, how Frost changed their lives and all that kind of stuff. So it's like the show mourned her already. But Mark, I mean, and I get it. He lost somebody that he was, I guess, deeply in love with. And so he still isn't over it. Like, he hasn't been able to cope with the loss. You know what? I understand and respect that. There are many people that have been in relationships or have been married and they lose their partner, and it's decades later, they're still affected by the memories and that kind of stuff. So I do understand that with Mark. My whole thing is, Caitlin also died, and nobody gives a shit. And it's like Keon is the only one that cares that Caitlin has died. And that's the thing that bugs me, because it's like whenever Mark is all up in his feels about Frost, I'm like, why is nobody still sort of shaken that they've lost their friend, ally, coworker, that they've been friends with for decade or something. I don't know. Like, that's the only thing that really bugged me about it. I will say this also. The scene in the bar in which everyone thought she was Frost, but she's like, no, I'm not Frost. And then they have like a public argument about Frost at the bar, and everyone's like chiming in. And then everybody, once it turned serious, they all like hushed up. That was a little cringe. It was very strange. It was like, I don't know what they were doing. Was this supposed to be like a rom-com type of moment? It didn't work for me. And had they just dealt with this when Mark was trying to make her like Frost powers emerge, what was it, the previous episode? I don't know. Yeah, it was the previous episode. It feels like forever just because we had that week break. If they would have like handled all of this with Mark and like realizing he's trying to turn Keon into Frost, then that would have been fine. But I hate that they had to like bleed it into this episode, and basically Keon had to be like, we're just doing stuff you like to do. you're trying to get my mind off of whatever, because you had a sexy dream with me, and so you're trying to see if like we have that spark, but I'm not Frost. I'm my own person. You haven't even tried to get to know me, and I have my own interests. Now, I will say the little sexy dream, like they have chemistry. Like clearly they did when Danielle Panabaker was Frost. So I feel like because of what happened in this episode, clearly they're not going to go into the Mark Keown type of thing. But I mean, they did have like a TV character chemistry spark that was like, okay, maybe this is where this episode is going. But then it didn't, and I was like, that's fine.
Although it's interesting when you think about the fact that that scene with Keon and Mark, where he takes off his shirt and have say 12 pack. When we find out subsequently that's his dream, that's an indication that that's how he sees himself, which is wow, dude, get over yourself.
There's
but,
that.
Yeah, I agree. The weirdest thing about this whole subplot was the scene in the bar. And first off, O'Shaughnessy's going from a neighborhood bar to a high stakes gambling operation to a karaoke bar in the span of 3 weeks. Pick a lane and stick with it.
Well, I mean, there are theme nights.
Yeah, I don't
so
think high-end gambling is a theme night.
Well, that might not be a theme night.
It was really weird, seeing all those people reacting. And I don't know if that was written, whether that was a director's decision, whatever. But, just from a speaking as a Canadian and assuming that all of those people, those, minor day players were Canadian, no Canadian would ever comment on anything that was going on in a bar in that way. That is not the way we were made. You shut up and you look at your drink and just hope that it will all go away.
Yeah.
So,
but you do listen in.
I kind of, of course we listen in, yes, and we silently judge and we talk about it later.
Yeah.
But we would never comment in the moment.
Like a normal human.
I kind of thought, I wonder whether they were setting up that this was going to be another dream situation, because it just seems so unreal to me that people would be commenting on what was going on in a public bar in that way. That I thought to myself, Mark's going to wake up again and realize, oh my God, I've screwed up. And, there's no way that normal human beings would ever act in this way. So yeah, I agree with you that as much as, we got some, funny moments and everything coming out of it, it just seems so totally unreal to me. And the whole, Mark and Keon was basically, a waste of time in the episode anyway. But yeah, that seemed really, took me out of it even more. Anyway, Nia shows up at CCCM and tells Iris that she's her role model. And somewhere we can just vaguely hear Kara Danvers going, yo, not cool.
Right?
Yeah, I know. I mean, for fuck's sakes, you have been working with Supergirl all these years.
Well, it's the Flash writers writing her to say it.
Yeah, well, anyway, that just means that Nia was a kiss up. Nia tells Iris about her most recent dream and how her powers were erased. She thinks the only person who can help is Iris, who is also there in the dream. While they're sitting there, Nia gets an image of the hooded figure, and suddenly both she and Iris are knocked out. They wake up in a dream where Nia is a police officer and Iris is the captain. It's Iris's dream. Iris is intrigued by the dream life and wonders if this dream means she should have become a cop. Suddenly, a door appears and Iris thinks it's a way out. Nia finally mentions, oh, by the way, Iris, in my dream, you died. So let's be careful about going through doors and stuff like that. Jeff, what do you think about Iris as a cop? I liked it. I love that scene. I'm sure it wasn't Candace Patton, going in and punching the guy out. It was her stunt double, but still, it was great to see, badass Iris not having to rely on a shotgun to kill people. But one thing that I liked about it was I thought that, Iris looked absolutely turned out, totally police captain, whereas Nia's costume was like totally ill-fitting, which I thought was a nice touch because it was Iris's dream after all. So, of course, Iris would be the one who is, the confident, well-turned-out professional, and Nia just kind of looks like a Canadian day player, and they couldn't bother fitting the costume for her.
Right. Iris West Allen looked fantastic. I loved seeing her kick ass. So I agree with you. In my mind, it was her. Like, it was Candace Patton. It was probably the stunt person, but in my mind, it was her.
But mentally, we're all thinking, yeah, way to go, Candace.
She did that thing. She did the thing. It was fantastic. Her as a cop, like just in general, the idea, I mean, it was an interesting thought. Like she went and started talking about how, like, I guess as a youngster, she was like, because my dad's a cop, like maybe I'll be a cop. Like all of like the justification that she was like giving, like, oh, I'm not just reporting the news, like I'm making the news. Like all of that was really interesting. I mean, clearly we were getting into her subconscious and like what she's thinking and like we knew, or at least I knew, there was going to be like a larger thing that was going to be discussed based off of the dreams. But it was an interesting dream to sort of start things off with. We had a little Jesse L. Martin cameo. His picture was on her desk. So, yay. It was great to see Papa Joe, even though we didn't
You're
actually...
counting as a cameo, are you?
Well, I'm counting it as a little cameo because we're not getting a lot of Papa Joe this season. So I'm trying to take as much Papa Joe as I can. And so we had a little Papa Joe moment. And I agree with you. Her suit was ill-fitted, which was it was kind of comical in my mind. But yeah, like you would have thought Neonal, like the first thing, once you get into the dreams, you would have been like, you know what, this is what actually happened when you were in my dream, so we should probably be careful. I will
Yeah,
give them
this is
props though on just really quick. I will give them props on the hooded figure. I didn't know where the hell this storyline was going to be going, so they did a good job of like the creep factor. Like when the hooded figure was there at C C C CCC Media, whatever. There's a lot of C's. When
you
when
got
they
there.
were
That was 3 seasons. Well
okay,
done.
good. When they were there, and all of a sudden, and then like it was like a whoosh type of thing. Like all of that was like really neat. Like props to the effects budget because I mean, let's be real. Neonal uses a lot of effects.
Moving on. Iris and Nia go through the door and suddenly they're working at Ginger's, but so is Barry and Chester. In the waking world, Barry shows up at CCCM and finds both Iris and Nia asleep. He takes them back to Star Labs where somehow the team deduces that if they don't wake up soon, they'll be in a permanent coma because obviously that's the sort of thing you can do when you're, not a medical professional. Back in the
Yeah.
dream, things suddenly start getting weird in the coffee shop. Iris takes control of the situation and solves the issue. Nia suddenly starts feeling warm and tells Iris they need to go. It turns out they're having something called angry sleep. And Nia realizes they need to crack the code of whatever the problem Iris is dealing with in her real life to get out. How'd you like the CC Jitters cosplay? And the way that we're getting another glimpse of Iris's concerns. And again, based on the idea of, Iris, idolizing her dad, wanting to be a cop, and finding out that she enjoyed her time working, at CC Jitters. How'd you feel that this was being played out in the, as I call it, the cosplaying sequence?
Yes. Shout out to season 1 of Legends of Tomorrow. I'm a barista. So she was a barista. I mean, this one was more sort of cutesy because we got to see some of our, regular people in the dream, being alternate versions of themselves. It was nice to see Iris and Barry sort of like still in love, and the little jokes about him like working really, really fast, but like, he was like going very slow, which was incredibly comical on Grant Gustin's part. When Iris went into the dream and we initially saw him like on the phone with her, like I was like, oh, is this going to be like a Grant Gustin less episode? Like, are we just going to see him in the beginning at the end, or is this going to be a lighter episode for him? So when we saw him actually go to CCC Media with the cheesy fries, which I will say, we didn't see them, but they sounded delicious. Like I was like, okay, we're gonna get Grant in this as Barry a lot more than I thought we were. I agree with the sciencey stuff. I mean, they sort of said it was Gideon that did the science and the medical stuff, which I mean, Gideon does do that, so I get it. But yeah, the fact that they don't actually have a medical professional there at all is concerning for me because they're, yeah, I just hope that they aren't going to have like medical crises coming up because they literally have nobody there outside of an AI. And I don't know if she's as advanced as like Gideon from the Wave Rider. So there's that. But yeah, it was a cute little dream.
It's as advanced as Amy Pemberton. Come on.
Well, I mean,
Iris reveals that she misses being able to clock out at the end of the day, and she misses having her freedom. And I have a certain understanding of this. There are times when I reflect back to times when I was just working in a bookstore and stuff like that, and I think, oh, it was just so much easier in those days before you had so much raining on you so much, and when you think about Iris's situation, she's running CCCM Media. She's married to the Flash. She is shooting bad guys in the face with a shotgun. There's a lot of shit on Iris's shoulders. And, there's a lot to be said for the idea of just chucking it all and leaving or leading a simpler, consequence-free life. So, I kind of get that. But suddenly the scene shifts to that warehouse where we first saw Nia at the beginning of the episode, because it turns out Iris and Nia's dreams are merging. They're now sharing a nightmare. And Nia tells her they have to run. Nia and Iris are confronted by the hood woman who attacks them. Nia stands up to her and says that she's the dreamer, she's in control and won't let her hurt them. Then a new door opens and suddenly Nia and Iris are back at CCCM, but they're still dreaming. They observe Iris's employees, including Allegra, interestingly, talking about Iris winning the Pulitzer Prize and overhear them saying they think she's a fraud. Nia talks with Iris about the situation, and Iris opens up about her feelings, that she hasn't earned things because she knew about her future. So she feels she's not making her own choices, almost that everything she's accomplished, everything she's done has been predestined somehow. And, that has left her feeling that she hasn't earned it. Nia tells her she is making her own choices because destiny is the culmination of a lifetime of choices, and path is one that she did create. Now, Jeff, we've seen a certain ambivalence to the future from Iris this season. I've talked about in the past, that it seems that, there's been a conflict between Barry basically arguing a predestination view, whereas Iris is arguing that, we have to create the future and, in every moment that we can. I think this scene encapsulated it pretty well. What did you think?
It did. I have so many opinions about this, but it really bleeds into the conversation that Nia Null has with her, and so I don't know if I can talk about that right now.
Go ahead, talk about it.
Okay, all right. I'll pull a Dimitri. Shout out to Dimitri. Okay, so Iris has been having this crisis of conscience, I guess. Ever since the premiere, ever since. Ever since Barry presented the map book, the guidebook of future events. And for Barry, it's like, okay, we got to be ready. We got to be prepared. We're so excited. This is all going to happen. And it's wonderful and it's magical and all this kind of stuff. And Iris, pretty much since the beginning, has been against manifest destiny, although that's not what manifest destiny is, but we'll call it manifest destiny here. And she wants free will. She wants the right to be able to choose what to do. She does not like that things are preordained because she feels like she didn't earn them. And we got those fears, as you said, in this dream sequence. And can I just say a really quick shout out to bringing back the actual actors that work there for just literally a 30-second dream sequence. I was surprised by that. Because I feel like we haven't seen them since maybe the premiere, or whenever it was. Yeah, I think it was the premiere. So anyway, so that was kind of nice. They got paid for that. So seeing her fears bubble up was really nice. But then afterwards, what Dreamer said to her, that sure, you're going to be getting the Pulitzer Prize. You're going to be getting it based off of this article, that all you have to do is hit enter tonight, or whenever you hit enter. You're going to be getting it for that. But it isn't just that, you're getting it because you hit the enter button. It's everything that led up to it. It's you studying journalism. It's you writing your first article. Like every article, every word that has been printed that you have, done in all these articles, all of that has led to the Pulitzer. So it isn't just that it's, some preordained thing. It's something that you have been working for all of your life. And I'm saying all of your life, but I think she's only 30. But anyway, you know what I'm saying, Professor. So if Dreamer did anything in this episode, it was that. And I think we're going to get a different Iris West Allen moving forward. Kind of accepting that there are things that are going to happen, but knowing that it isn't just that things are going to happen. She's been working for those things to happen ever since day one.
In the waking world, Cecile suddenly realizes there's someone else there with them, but she doesn't know who. Cecile tells Barry that both Iris and Nia are going to be okay because what she just felt was a powerful and kind presence. But we, watching it, realize that she's perceiving this mysterious hooded figure. Full disclosure, I was 100% convinced that Nia was the hooded figure. And honestly, when we found
Oh.
out that everything's going to be fine, this is a benevolent figure, I thought that just sealed things. So color me surprised by how it turned out. In the dream, Nia and Iris find a door covered in spider webs. Nia has to make her way through to another door and ends up back in the warehouse in her dreamer suit with the hooded figure again. Then Nia tells the hooded figure she's ready to give up control and accepts whatever comes next, which turns out that was what was necessary. The figure removes her hood and shows herself to be the original dreamer, the ancient source of dream energy. She gives Nia the power, and both Nia and Iris wake up completely fine at Star Labs. After it's all over and the team is getting together and decompressing, Nia explains the original dreamer is going to teach her how to use her powers beyond her wildest dreams. Rim shot. And as a brief aside, I really like the fact that when Nicole Maines did that, she actually mimed a little rim shot because she was aware of the fact she was making these dreamer jokes. And I subsequently found out, that when Nicole Maines was playing Dreamer, she had like a list of all the Dreamer puns she could think of, sitting on her phone, just waiting to find ways to use them in the show. So I absolutely like that. Iris is convinced by this. She goes ahead and publishes her story. So Jeff, do we think this is the final resolution to Iris's, season long or 7-episode long arc of dealing with the consequences of, Barry understanding what the future is supposed to be and Iris pushing against that? Is that all in the past now and we're just going to be going forward for the final 5 or 6 episodes?
That's what my hope is. I feel like Dreamer did a really good job of just conveying, as I said, that Iris has been working for this her entire life. So it isn't just that it's preordained. It's that every little thing that she's done has been leading her down this path to this journey of winning the Pulitzer Prize. So I think so. That's my hope. The little rim shot thing was adorable. The fact that it was the original Dreamer, that was really interesting. Could they not have given her any lines? Like, I feel like an actor gets paid more when you actually say something. I feel like
Absolutely.
that's okay. So that's factually accurate. She said nothing. So that means they didn't pay her as much as some of the other ones. I mean, she got paid the same as like the random people that were standing. I'm going to assume those random people that were standing in that warehousey hall were other dreamers over the centuries. Maybe. But I'm confused now because I thought the dreamers were always supposed to be women and there were men standing there too. So I was very confused. Maybe they're just her ancestors. I don't know. I wish we would have gotten just a little explanation for that because it was a stylistic choice that was meant to give an air of foreboding, but it was just strange. I did enjoy her little jaunt through the spiderweb hallway. That was kind of neat. And the other thing that I want to say is that I loved that we had both of like the MacGuffin people meet because Dreamer was kind of a MacGuffin person over on Supergirl. She was like way OP and was able to do anything and everything every single week. It's like her power source sort of fit whatever the writers needed to happen during said week's episode. And Cecile is the same type of person. She's a MacGuffin. We don't really know what her powers are, but she can sense everything and everyone, and she can freeze things, and she's a telepath, and she'll stop a tidal wave at some point. I don't know, but yeah, seeing them meet was so cute in my mind because I'm like, both of you have way more in common than you actually know.
Speaking of Cecile, at the end of the episode, everyone has a big family breakfast at the West House. Mark stops by to talk to Keon. He's still struggling with having lost Frost. Duh. He apologizes to Keon. She forgives him because she's his friend. He says he'll miss her because he's going to have to leave town because he has to go through his pain and grieve properly and alone. He makes her promise to keep exploring her powers. She then goes back inside and ends up ruining breakfast. Thanks, Keon, because
Right?
she's sad. That's no reason to ruin breakfast for everyone else, you monster. Jeff, any thoughts? I mean, obviously, because, Mark is supposed to be part of the Team Flash family, they had to have him, realize he was wrong. Given we only have, 5 episodes left, is it surprising he's going to
6.
go off on a vision quest to find himself? Were you at all surprised by this? And again, the idea that, should we read anything more than the fact that, Keon is sad? And that her sadness manifests itself in, sub-zero powers. Is she sad just because, she's disappointed a friend, or is there perhaps something more to her disappointment?
Okay, we have 6 episodes left. I double checked. He will be gone for between 2 and 3 episodes, I think max, because he's a series regular. So I doubt he was a series regular for like the first half of the season. Then he's just going to disappear from the opening credits. But we'll find out next week if he's no longer in the opening credits. Then we know exactly where his vision quest has taken him, and that is off the show. Okay, so there was that. Like, I will say this: Mark gets a lot of crap talked about him, in particular from you and from Dimitri. I've been a little bit kinder to Mark, and I will say this: I thought it was
More
incredibly
from Dimitri than from me.
well. There you go. I think he's a hater of the 12-pack, but anywho, you didn't hear
I
it
think
from me.
it's for anyone with ice powers. Come on.
Whoa, well, there is that too.
Dimitri hates ice people. Spread it, people.
Yeah, that is a fact. He also hates ice sculptures, and he didn't like the movie Frozen. But anyhow, so I felt like this
Jeff,
was yes.
let it go.
I will. Sorry. I feel like this was the most mature that we've seen Mark in a moment. Like the fact that he actually was so introspective about what was going on and he realized what he was doing. Props to him, because I feel like a lot of grown-ass people would try to gaslight and make up excuses as to why they were acting the way Mark was acting. So props to him for realizing the root of the issue and the fact that he needs to mourn. If the rest of the Team Flash would realize that they also have to mourn Caitlin, maybe other things would be better. I don't know. But Keone? Okay, first of all, Cecile was like, I worked so hard on this brunch, my secret family recipe that I can't wait for y'all to try. And then she freezes everything. My hope is that they're able to defrost some of the stuff. Just because, I mean, there was like a big ass spread of food there. Now, clearly we know, and we discussed this already, Keone is going to be some sort of Mother Nature type of, well, she's not a metahuman. Being, there we go, a conduit, I don't know, an avatar maybe, yo no sé, but she's going to be something with Mother Nature. She can do stuff with stuff in the world. Like she was controlling the weather that one day, she made it rain, she made the rain stop, and now she can freeze things. So maybe flame powers will happen next, and then earth powers, Maybe she is the last airbender. We don't know. But clearly she can control stuff based off of her emotions. Yeah, the only thing that I can add to it is just I hope they were able to salvage the food. Maybe not the liquor. It looked like they were bottomless mimosas being ready to be poured out. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know if, yeah. I don't know if it's going to taste the same after that gets thawed out, but you just put the casserole thing in the microwave, I think, or in the oven. It should be fine, I would hope.
It was curious that she was exuding enough cold power to, freeze alcohol in class. But, none of the people, lost their hands or anything like that, which would seem to be, a logical, assumption of that. Yeah, while I agree with you that, this was probably the most mature we've seen Mark, I did feel it was a bit undermined by the fact that they did have that scene in the bar where everyone was commenting, on his relationship to such an extent that I found it kind of undercut, his, what we would hope would be his emotional growth. Having, that what was, presented as such a funny scene of everyone in the bar commenting on, just how clueless he was and how he wasn't getting it. That felt like a misstep to me. I think it would have played better if we hadn't had literally every, person in the bar reacting to what he said, or at least every female patron in the bar reacting to what he said, and the male patrons, wincing at, just how clueless he was. But that said, no, I agree with you. We'll probably, be without Mark for an episode or two, and then he'll be back, and we'll see how it all plays out as we approach the end of the series. Before we move on to the MVP section, was there anything you wanted to mention, Jeff? An Easter egg, a moment of shame, or maybe a Hall of Fame moment?
I'm trying to think. Well, I love the braids for Iris, so it's nice to sort of see them, outside of just the previous episode. It was nice to see them in this episode as well. And outside of that, I feel like we covered everything. Even though we kind of zipped through some of the dream stuff, I feel like we did cover everything.
Okay, it's time for the MVP section. So state which character impressed you throughout the episode and why. Once a character's been chosen, they cannot be selected again, so choose wisely. Jeff, who is your MVP and pourquoi?
Well, I'll go with the obvious choice. I'm going to give it to Dreamer. Whether she fit into the story, whether she was shoehorned in, whether we needed this additional chapter in the Nia Null Dreamer story in the Arrowverse, I can't answer that for everyone. But all I can say is, for me, she was enjoyable. It was great to see her again. It was nice that, we had a little bit of an exposition-y confirmation that Iris has gone to their brunches, even though I don't feel like a lot of time has passed for her to have gone to brunches. And she's also pregnant.
Basically, one brunch in there.
Okay. And she's also pregnant, so she can't really, brunch it up like people do, bottomless mimosas and that kind of stuff. So she'll just be sipping on like orange juice while the other supers get drunk, which, that might be entertaining by itself. But yeah, it was great to see Nia Null again. Once again, I don't know why we needed this story, but I'm glad she was there. She was fantastic. I just genuinely feel bad for the hardcore Flash viewer that's like, I just watched The Flash. I never saw Arrow. I never saw Legends. I never saw Supergirl, etc., etc., etc. I just watched The Flash. If you just watched The Flash, you have no idea who this lady is. And so, I feel sorry for you because she was such a fantastic character on Supergirl, and she was just equally fantastic here, even though she was a bit of a suck-up by saying that Iris West Allen is, her number one, which, Kara has super hearing, so I feel like she heard that, and she was like, that bitch.
Oh, yeah, totally. And I don't care how powerful you are. You don't want to go pissing off Supergirl. But I agree. I don't know if it was necessary, out of all the characters. Yes, she did manage to, by invoking, Dreamer, they managed to, allow Iris to have some emotional development in this episode. I'm not sure it was necessary. I would be much happier if we could have gotten resolution to what happened to Legends, because, everything wrapped up, nicely in a bow on Supergirl, whereas Legends did not wrap up quite so nicely. So I would have been a bit happier if they could have found a way to involve, a Legend in this episode. But who could have done that? I don't know. But no, I agree with you. It was great to see Nicole again. She is cute as a bug's ear. She has a great costume, and Dreamer was a fantastic character. So I do not begrudge them bringing back Dreamer. But for me, I'm just going to mirror what the listeners have been saying for the past 45 minutes. Thank God Dimitri's not here, because I get to choose Iris. Obviously, if Dimitri were here, he would have glommed onto Iris and prevented me from choosing her. I thought she was great. I thought she did a great job of playing her concerns. I love the way that Candice Patton played herself, sort of thinking herself, oh, maybe I'm a badass cop, or, you know what, I kind of like being a barista. I think that was very nicely done. And I think Candice Patton did a great job of playing someone who is very successful in her life, but is looking back and thinking, yes, I'm successful, but would I be happier if I'd lived a simpler life? And I think that's something that, a lot of people, you deal with, as they become, more quote unquote successful, and all of that. Would you be happier if you had a simpler, quieter life? Not to get all Hallmark, or anything like that. But I think she did a very nice job of playing that, and I appreciate that. Okay, so now it's time to rate the episode. How would you rate the episode on a scale of 1 to 10 lightning bolts? The point system is allowed, and if you found the episode exceptional, deserving of more than 10, you may archive the episode in the Flash Museum. Jeff, how would you rate this episode?
I've been going back and forth on what this episode should get.
I agree. Oh, thank God Dimitri isn't here.
Right? Oh, he'd probably give it low, even if it's an Iris West Allen one.
We get a lot of Candace Patton.
Yeah, well, that is true. But I think he would drop the F-bomb. And I'm like teetering close to that too. But we did have some really good character development for Iris West Allen. Like she was really troubled by the guidebook to life. And I feel like we got a bit of understanding from her via Nia that helped a little bit of character development. So, I mean, it was not a bad episode. It was a good episode. I don't know how this fits into the overall narrative in which they're trying to express for this being the final season, and we're getting a lot of episodes that don't really feel like the urgency that this is the final season is there. But I did enjoy it, and it was great to see Nia Nall again. And Nicole Maines was just fantastic. And even Candace Patton as Iris was fantastic as well. I'll give it an 8.5. I'm like stuck between an 8 and a 9. And I don't know if a 9 is too high. I don't know if an 8 is too low. It was a well done episode. I'm so almost perplexed by it because of just where this episode falls into this final season. But it was not a bad episode. It was enjoyable, and it was great to see Nia again, and it was nice to see Candace Patton at the forefront.
I would agree with you. I would give it an 8.5 if this was an episode of Supergirl, but it wasn't. It was an episode of The Flash, and I think that, in terms of, you mentioned the dreaded F word, this was absolutely a filler episode. Yes, we got a tiny bit of advance in Iris's concerns, but we've been dealing with this since the first episode, and it didn't feel like a significant enough advance in her storyline to justify that. The only real advance that we got was in Dreamer's character, and Dreamer is not a Flash character. So while I loved seeing Nia again, I thought she was great, and a character certainly worth revisiting. There's only 5 episodes left in the series.
6.
Did we spend 6 episodes left in the series? Did we need to spend this much time on a character from a completely different show that wrapped up a couple of years ago? I don't think so. So I'm going to give it a 7.5. Still a very enjoyable. And again, I love Nia. I love Nicole Maines. I think she's great. I love the character. Again, love the costume. But I just feel like, man, this episode didn't land for me. Join us next time for a brand new installment of the Central City Citizen. Here's our announcer to remind you on how you can interact with us.
Follow Poppy Chulo Radio on social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at Poppy Chulo Radio. Do you have any questions, suggestions, comments, or concerns? Email us via contact@poppychuloradio.com. Are you interested in joining the Poppy Chulo Radio team as an on-air personality? Email talent@poppychuloradio.com. Binge listen to your favorite Poppy Chulo Radio programs by visiting poppychuloradio.com/archives. You can also download tonight's broadcast and the rest of the series through Apple Podcasts and Google Play. Just search for The Central City Citizen and subscribe.
Thanks, announcer. Jeff, please wish the listeners good night.
Good night, Central City, Metropolis, and the Dream World.
Thanks for tuning in. Subscribe to the Central City Citizen by Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. New episodes released every Friday. You can also download the entire series by visiting poppychuloradio.com/archives. Good night.